Have you ever walked into a room full of people and felt like a ghost among the living? Not because they ignore you, but because you see too much, because you hear what they don't say, because you think in ways they can't follow. This is the silent curse of the intelligent man, not the man with degrees or social prestige, but the one whose mind slices through illusion like a blade through silk. The man who sees the layers beneath the laughter, hears the emptiness behind the noise, and finds no refuge in the familiar comforts of idle company. Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher of grim truths, once wrote that the more intelligent a man is, the more antisocial he becomes. He wasn't glorifying misanthropy. He was stating a pattern that time refuses to erase, because intelligence, real intelligence, comes with a cost, a vision, and with that vision comes alienation. Where others see entertainment, he sees distraction. Where others seek validation, he hungers for truth. And where others bond over small talk, he silently drowns in the absence of meaning. It's not that he doesn't want friends, it's that he can't relate. And when he tries, he often ends up more alone than before. If this resonates, hit like or share it. Chances are someone you know feels this, but never says it out loud. This is not about superiority, it's about separation. The intelligent man doesn't sit above others, he drifts outside them, watching, decoding, analyzing, and slowly unraveling. Welcome to the mind of the thinking man, where brilliance casts long shadows, and every insight cuts just a little deeper into the soul. This is not loneliness by choice, it's loneliness by design, by the very architecture of thought. And this is the price of perception, the haunting truth behind why intelligent men have so few friends. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't just observe the world, he dissected it. And what he found at the core of human nature was not community or compassion, but conflict, illusion, and emptiness. To him, intelligence was not a gift, but a blade, a razor that sliced a man away from the world. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, Schopenhauer wrote. And if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. This wasn't poetic solitude, it was philosophical exile. Schopenhauer believed that the more intelligent a person is, the more sharply they perceive the absurdity of social norms, the vanity of ambition, and the mediocrity that infects ordinary conversation. To truly think, to truly see, is to recognize how little depth most interactions actually have. And that awareness creates distance. The superior mind becomes foreign to its environment. It doesn't hate others. It simply can't connect with them in a world where most people live behind masks, chasing pleasure, parroting borrowed opinions, avoiding silence at all costs. The intelligent man often finds that in crowds he is lonelier than when alone, because it's not the presence of others that comforts him, it's the connection, and that connection is rare. Schopenhauer's razor cuts through delusion, yes, but it also cuts ties to community, to tradition, to belonging. In gaining clarity, the intelligent man loses companionship, and in seeing the world as it truly is, he becomes something the world no longer understands. There's a reason intelligent men often retreat from social life, and it isn't arrogance, it's defense. In a world dominated by the herd, depth is not welcomed, it's rejected. Not because it's wrong, but because it threatens the fragile order most people cling to. Schopenhauer's razor cuts through delusion, yes, but it also cuts ties. Herd mentality thrives on agreement, comfort, and consensus. It avoids questions with no easy answers. It recoils from complexity. It punishes those who refuse to conform, not with violence, but with exclusion, mockery, and isolation. When you speak the truth, people don't listen. They flinch, Average minds are not inherently malicious, but they are defensive. They protect the collective illusion that the world is simple, that people are good, that life has meaning in all the ways we've been told. But the intelligent man, he disrupts that. He questions the script. He sees through the rituals. He doesn't nod along. And that refusal alone is enough to trigger discomfort in others. People don't hate him for being smart. They hate him for making them feel dumb. Even when he says nothing, his presence can feel like judgment, a mirror they didn't ask to look into. So the herd protects itself. It favors those who play along, who smile on cue, who don't dig too deep. The man who challenges the narrative must go. And so the intelligent man learns a hard truth. If you want to be accepted, stay shallow. If you want to be honest, walk alone. Because the herd doesn't just ignore depth, it repels it. Intelligence opens doors, but it also builds walls. To be highly intelligent is to notice what others overlook, to ask questions most never think to ask, and to uncover truths that others find uncomfortable. That kind of insight can feel like a superpower at first. But the darker reality is that it often comes at the cost of human connection, because the more a man understands, the harder it becomes to relate. Every insight gained seems to take him one step further from the crowd. He sees the manipulation in media, the performative nature of friendships, the selfish motives behind kindness. He recognizes patterns in behavior, hidden power dynamics in conversations, and the masks people wear to survive. And once seen, these things can't be unseen. This heightened perception creates a psychological distance. Conversations become predictable. Small talk feels robotic. Shared laughter starts to sound rehearsed. And slowly, isolation doesn't just happen, it becomes necessary. This is the double-edged sword of intelligence. It cuts through illusion, yes, but it also cuts away comfort, familiarity, even intimacy. Others might envy the mind that sees so much, but they don't see the silence that follows it. They don't feel the disconnect, the growing realization that the more you know, the harder it becomes to be known. So the intelligent man lives between two extremes, the brilliance of clarity and the ache of detachment, insight or isolation, vision or loneliness. Sometime it's the same thing. Most people fear silence. Intelligent men often crave it. It's not that they dislike conversation. They dislike what most conversation has become. Noise, surface-level exchanges, predictable pleasantries, recycled opinions passed around like currency in a world terrified of stillness. For the intelligent man, silence isn't emptiness, it's clarity, it's control, it's peace. In silence he can think freely, observe without interruption, reflect without performance. It is the only space where he is not forced to dilute himself, to be digestible to others. Chatter demands conformity. It pressures him to laugh at things he doesn't find funny, nod at ideas he finds absurd, and pretend to care about topics that feel hollow. Over time, that charade becomes exhausting, so he withdraws, not out of misanthropy but self-preservation. To the outside world he may appear cold or aloof, but in truth, he's simply tired of using his mind as a filter instead of a tool. Because in the quiet, he can finally be what he is without apology. And while the world may worship noise, the intelligent man often finds that his deepest truths emerge in the sound of his own silence. To the intelligent man, social interaction is never just casual. It's strategic, calculated, and often dangerous. Because where others see friendship, he sees patterns, motives, power dynamics, the unspoken undercurrents beneath every smile. He doesn't ask, "Do I like this person?" He asks, "What do they want?" This is not paranoia, It's pattern recognition sharpened by experience. He's seen too many friendships built on convenience, flattery, or hidden agendas. Too many betrayals dressed in kindness. Too many people who only draw near when they need something. And so trust becomes currency, precious, rare. Unlike the naive optimist, he does not believe people are good by default. He knows human nature leans towards self-interest, even in relationships that claim to be selfless. He watches the way people shift in the presence of status, wealth, weakness, or vulnerability, and he remembers. This hyper-awareness can be a shield, but it also becomes a barrier, because the more deeply he analyzes others, the harder it becomes to let anyone in. Not without suspicion, not without restraint. Every connection is weighed against its potential risk, manipulation, disappointment, betrayal. He doesn't see enemies everywhere, he just knows they often come disguised as friends, so he keeps his circle small, not because he's antisocial, but because he values peace over pretense and safety over sentiment. To others it looks like coldness, to him it's simply self-defense. There's a seductive idea in our culture, the myth of the lonely genius, the brilliant man, isolated by his own intellect, wandering alone through a world too shallow to understand him. It's poetic, tragic, even heroic. But is it true, or is it just a story we tell to make sense of pain? Because loneliness, real loneliness, isn't beautiful. It's not noble, it's brutal. The intelligent man may embrace solitude, but that doesn't mean he doesn't feel the ache of disconnection. The myth romanticizes his suffering. It paints his isolation as destiny, not damage, as greatness, not grief. But behind the myth lies a man who at times would trade every insight for a moment of being truly understood. This isn't to say that all solitude is suffering. Some of it is chosen, needed, powerful. But the idea that the intelligent man must suffer alone to be authentic is a lie, a dangerous one. Because when we glorify the lonely genius, we overlook his humanity. We forget that even the sharpest minds still crave warmth, belonging, and touch. Genius doesn't make a man immune to loneliness, it just makes it harder to escape. For the average person, social interaction is energizing, a hit of dopamine, a sense of belonging, a reward loop, reinforced by shared laughter and validation. But for the highly intelligent man, it often feels like combat, not in the literal sense, but in the neurological one. His brain is wired differently. He processes more, faster, and more deeply. While others engage in light, reactive banter, his mind is busy analyzing every word, gesture, tone, and subtext. He doesn't just participate, he dissects. This hypercognitive engagement comes at a cost: mental fatigue. Add to that the often superficial nature of most social exchanges, gossip, repetition, emotional performance, and the intelligent man begins to feel like he's burning calories just to pretend he's interested. Meanwhile, others are basking in dopamine highs from social bonding, but his reward system is tuned differently. It lights up not from small talk, but from insight, creation, and solitude. He's not antisocial, he's neurologically overstimulated. He may enjoy meaningful conversations, deep intellectual exchanges, or moments of real emotional authenticity, but these are rare. Most social gatherings feel like endurance tests, loud, chaotic, draining. So he withdraws, not because he's cold, but because he's fried. The dopamine the world offers through connection, it doesn't always reach him, and if it does, it's often not worth the crash. In the war for mental energy, the intelligent man must choose his battles, and increasingly he chooses peace over people. Schopenhauer understood loneliness intimately, but he didn't run from it. He refined it, transformed it into something cold, sharp and strangely liberating: detachment. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, he wrote. But solitude, in his philosophy, wasn't a prison. It was a fortress. Where most people seek relief from loneliness in others, Schopenhauer urged the opposite. He saw desire, especially the desire for connection, as the root of suffering. So, the antidote wasn't companionship, it was withdrawal. Detachment doesn't mean apathy, it means sovereignty. The ability to remain unmoved by the chaos of the world, unchained by need, untouched by rejection. It is, in essence, a form of philosophical armor. The intelligent man, burned too many times by shallow relationships and unmet expectations, often turns to this practice instinctively. He learns to need less, to expect nothing, to find stillness within, rather than stimulation without. But it comes with a price. To feel less pain, he must also feel less joy. To be untouched by others, he must also remain unknown. Detachment may shield him from loneliness, but it also seals him off from love. And so, in mastering his mind, the intelligent man may lose his heart. Solitude can sharpen the mind, but left unchecked, it can also devour it. For the intelligent man, isolation often begins as a conscious choice, a defense, a sanctuary from a world that feels noisy, shallow and suffocating. But over time, what once felt like power can quietly become poison. The silence that once soothed becomes heavy. The space that once protected becomes a void. Deprived of meaningful connection, even the sharpest mind begins to loop inward. Thoughts echo with no one to challenge them. Doubts grow louder without contrast. Perspective narrows. Paranoia creeps in. What begins as detachment can morph into disconnection, not just from others, but from the self. Depression, nihilism, emotional numbness. These aren't signs of weakness. They are symptoms of unchecked brilliance turned inward. A genius mind starving for resonance. Schopenhauer himself was no stranger to this. For all his philosophical rigor, he struggled with misanthropy, bitterness, and despair. His genius didn't free him, it isolated him. The psychological price of genius isn't just being alone, it's becoming trapped there. And so the intelligent man must walk a razor-thin line between solitude and self-destruction, between clarity and collapse, because isolation may protect the mind, but it can also quietly unravel it. The human mind is not built to exist in a vacuum. Even the most intelligent man, for all his insight and autonomy, needs mirrors, not for vanity, but for reflection, for resonance, for recognition. Without someone to challenge, affirm, or even misunderstand him, his thoughts become unanchored, like signals broadcast into space with no receiver. Ideas need friction, beliefs need dialogue, identity needs feedback. But when no one speaks his language, the intelligent man begins to drift, unseen, unheard, unreflected. He can't dumb himself down to be understood, but he can't keep shouting into silence either. Over time, this absence of intellectual reflection creates a strange kind of loneliness, not of the heart, but of the mind. Not being alone, but being invisible. And when there's no mirror to reflect who you are, you start to forget the shape of your own thoughts. Even brilliance needs to be witnessed. This is the question that lingers, quietly, painfully, beneath all the insight, solitude, and strength. Can the intelligent man ever truly belong, not just fit in, not just be tolerated or admired, but to be seen, known, understood, without shrinking himself, dumbing himself down, or hiding behind masks. Belonging isn't about proximity, it's about resonance, a shared frequency, a space where the mind can unfold without apology. But for the intelligent man, that space is rare, sometimes impossibly so. His standards are high, his perception sharp, his tolerance for pretense low, and so he waits, wanders, watches, often wondering if his mind is a blessing or a beautifully disguised curse. Yet, the answer may lie not in finding many, but in finding one mind that mirrors back depth, one soul that doesn't flinch at silence, one connection that doesn't require translation. Because even the most isolated mind carries a quiet hope that somewhere someone speaks its language. The intelligent man may walk alone, but that doesn't mean he's not listening for footsteps beside him. Thank you for watching. If this exploration spoke to you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And until next time, take care of your mind, and it will take care of you.